Throughout Maine's battle against the COVID-19 virus, the advice we have received has been coming from Nirav Shah, head of the Maine Center for Disease Control. But he is about to leave that job for one of the top public health positions with the federal government.
So 207's Don Carrigan, who spent a lot of time reporting on the pandemic in the early months, sat down with the man we all know as Dr. Shah for a look back.
Community transmission has occurred.
It might seem like another era, but it was only 3 years ago when most of us first heard from Nirav Shah.
Nationwide, not just in Maine.
Over the succeeding months, he would become one of the best-known people in Maine, advising, teaching, explaining about the COVID pandemic, his face and voice, and almost daily presence in countless homes and businesses.
What is that like?
To be someone who didn't grow up in Maine, who's not from Maine, who's only been here 3.5 years, who's got a funny last name, who's from another state, who's got brown skin, to take all of those things and yet 3.5 years later, in the midst of difficult, dark times, to be seen as someone who people wave at when I walk down the street or thank when I pop into a bar, it's extremely gratifying.
Does that happen?
It does happen. It does happen. It happens regularly. In one particular instance, my wife and I had to go to Target to pick up some stuff, and so I had on sunglasses and a hoodie with the hoodie pulled over my head, and I was trying to be as low profile as I could, and we were walking through Target, and people were saying, "Hey, Dr. Shah, how you doing?" So I thus abandoned the disguise.
As director of the Maine CDC, Shah won high praise and some criticism for his management of the pandemic and his ability to answer endless questions about the virus. But he admits there was a lot to learn.
How prepared were you personally for dealing with the pandemic?
On a scale of 1 to 10, probably a 0. There's nothing that prepares you for a pandemic at all. The only thing that can prepare you for a pandemic is a pandemic. As an agency, I want to be clear, as an agency, we were ready to go because that's what agencies do. But as an individual, as the head of the department or the agency, nothing can prepare you like going through it.
And looking back, another admission from the man leading Maine's fight against COVID.
Especially in those first couple of months, did you have moments of self-doubt? My God, am I doing the right thing?
Oh, every single day. And let me be really clear. Any leader during a pandemic who doesn't wake up 5 times in the middle of the night saying, was that the right call? Do I need to change course? Is not being thoughtful.
He praises the whole team at the CDC, those who did the heavy lifting while he steered the course, and says that overall, Maine was able to manage the pandemic well, better than most other states. But he would like at least one do-over to make it more clear early on that things would change as science learned more.
And you've heard me talk at length about how this advice is based on what we know today. And that's a phrase that we use a lot about, but I don't think I did enough to really prepare and forecast for people in Maine that what we know today will absolutely change next week, next month, next year.
He did get clobbered by critics when advice changed on things like masks and when the vaccine, while good, wasn't perfect.
The vaccine is going to reduce your risk of landing in the hospital by 70, 80, 90%, but that's not 100%.
And he says one of the most worrisome moments came just a year ago when the Omicron variant was filling up Maine hospitals.
And that was the period when I thought, if our hospitals really, truly run out of beds, that's when we're looking at things like tent hospitals and flying in doctors from other parts of the country.
But the situation got better, and he says there were also successes.
Were there moments during all that, I hate to ask, that were exhilarating, exciting?
He pointed to the urgent need last year for a vaccine clinic in Augusta as Omicron threatened.
We met in this office and said, we've got to do something, and we've got to do it fast. We cannot wait for 6 weeks to get it up. So we had to meet the demand, and we did so in 96 hours. To me, that was a shining example of, number one, why public service is important.
public service is now taking him to a much bigger stage. Nirav Shah is about to become Deputy Director of the National CDC in Atlanta, second in command for a federal agency of 20,000 people. It's a job that came looking for him.
When you get called up, you go. And for me, that's what public service is about. That's what duty is. And so as much as we love Maine and as much as we see our future here in Maine, for right now, duty is called, and that's what I'm going to go do. The healthcare angle and the gratitude and
the many gifts he has been given by grateful Mainers will remain at the CDC office, where he says many people did the work of fighting COVID. And one other surprise for us, Nirav Shah says, do not call him doctor.
Even though you earned the title.
I went to medical school, but I don't consider myself a doctor. Other people sometimes refer to me that way, but you'll notice on press briefings and things, I never said, hi, I'm doctor. I just said, hey, I'm Nirav Shah.
And finally, we had a small surprise for him, a toast with his signature drink to wish Nirav Shah well in the new job. And thanks for doing this one.
I hope this doesn't go bad.
If it does, we'll have it on tape, and it'll be funny, be real.
Yeah, really, wouldn't that be good?
Yeah, yeah.
So, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
We're sorry to be losing you, but glad that we're not really losing you.
Exactly right.
So
it's been an honor. It's been an honor.